civil inspection warrant. This warrant, as drafted, will allow my officers to inspect the entire premises from property line to property line, as well as within any vehicle or structure that's on the property, to determine the full nature, extent, nature, and scope of any violations that we suspect being here. Obviously, as we drove in, we saw a large quantity of marijuana plants. We'll get a count on those and find out what that ends up being. So what we're understanding, Russ, is that we have an occupant here that claims to not know anything about what's going on or who's in charge. She was brought in to essentially tend the garden and has provided food and This is typically what we find. You can see here we've got an area for people to sleep. Sometimes they're inside, sometimes they're outside, sometimes they're in tents. What you have here is you have a timer in an electrical socket with a very small extension cord running out to a ballast, which is plug cord connected in the dry grass. We can look at that in a bit. And then clipped to the metal fencing there is probably a light, and they're going to use that light to stimulate the growth on the smaller plants out there. So here we have nutrients. We'll always find nutrients that are associated with the grow. They're going to be fungicides, biofungicides, insecticides, rodenticides. We've got some trimming going on here. What law enforcement is telling me is that we have a potential lab. So as we kind of have discussed, and it has been discussed so many times in front of the Board of Supervisors, oftentimes in these foothill grows where you have dry vegetation, we see unattended generators, we see long runs of extension cords. Those extension cords will heat up, the insulation can melt, and you have a fire hazard. Something else we see most often, and if you come in and zoom, we've got a pile of extension cord that's been used here, and this is exactly what we're talking about. We have a splice that's unprotected, the tape insulation is gone, it's lying in dry grass. Spark occurs, we have a fire on our hands. Exactly the reason we come out and look at this stuff. So when we count plants, Russ, we have always have 2 officers on site to do that. We get a double count of everything. Sometimes the deputies will also help us, but really, truly, their purpose here is to provide protection to us while we come on this way. We've got an interested goat. You know, one of the other big things that we see when we see these people that are imported, dubbed as trimmigrants or caretakers of the marijuana, what I find is that they're not from the area. They have no, there's nothing to tie them here, and so as you saw, we see junk, trash, and debris. They're not required to pick that up. They don't even care to pick it up. They're here according to the paperwork we saw inside for room, board, and all the weed you can smoke, and so. It's unfortunate and a shame to find these things.